Now to our panel with NewsNation political contributors Kurt Bardella, Democratic strategist, and Denise Gitsham, former Republican congressional candidate from California. Good to see you both. All right, Denise, let's start with you. Let's listen to what the president had to say earlier this hour, and I'll get your take.
This afternoon, 20 leading technology and energy companies are announcing more than $92 billion of investments in Pennsylvania. But this is a really triumphant day for the people of the Commonwealth and for the United States of America. We're doing things that nobody ever thought possible.
All right, you laid out some pretty big plans. What do you think today's event does for the White House's narrative that Trump is the deal maker in chief? Because that's sure what it sounded like today.
Yeah, I mean, he's been talking about a lot of these great deals that private sector companies are investing into states and local communities, more importantly, almost $100 billion, he just said. But more than that, what he's really messaging is to Pennsylvanians that he's your guy and Republicans are your party as long as he's in charge of it moving forward. Pennsylvania is second in the nation for natural gas production, and Republicans have always had the advantage on that issue when campaigning in that state. And it actually accounts for, I think, 5.6% of the state's workforce and nearly 10% of the state's GDP. So when you saw Biden flip-flop on his no new fracking snafu in the Democratic primary in 2020, he spent the rest of the 4 years saying, I will not ban fracking for a reason. This is the major issue for Pennsylvanians, and Trump is messaging on that issue alone.
Kurt, what do you think about that idea? And also I want to ask you about Senator David McCormick not being the only Pennsylvania official there, because we had Governor Josh Shapiro was also present. He's there now. We've seen other Democrats join Trump during events in the past, like Governors Gretchen Whitmer and Kathy Hochul. Do you think Democrats are shifting their strategy to work with Trump? And also, you know, what did you make about what you heard so far today?
Well, I think that any time that you're getting investment in your state, well, no, you don't care who's in the Oval Office. You're going to want to take credit for that, too, at some point. And I very much imagine Josh Shapiro someday on a campaign trail boasting about the amount of investment that happened under his watch while he was governor. So I think there's always self-interest involved. Particularly, we're talking about governors who seem to have their eyes on 2028 and beyond. I think that this is always a good look. Anytime that you can promote energy, innovation, economic growth, investment, those are good things. I think ultimately what really will matter, though, is one, tell us when the check clears, because it's one thing to make a commitment. It's another thing to actually get the check in writing. And two, will people at home actually feel the economic impact in their day-to-day lives? We just had a segment right before ours talking about how things like the cost of tomatoes could be going up. I promise you, the cost of everyday goods and groceries going up will affect things far more than very broad commitments in the billions of dollars that most people can't even wrap their arms around.
Yeah, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what this means with the proposed plans that we've been hearing about with AI and energy. Denise, you know, if this is the Democrats' new tactic, how do you see it playing out in next year's elections? Can everybody work together and get this on the road?
Well, there's almost nothing that Democrats and Republicans are working on together. So if Josh Shapiro wants to position himself as somebody who can work in a bipartisan manner, which he's going to need to do to continue holding on to even Pennsylvania for the rest of the Democratic Party since it's turned red, you know, this is a smart move by Democrats who have national aspirations, because they don't have a national unifying voice for their party, and they don't have a cohesive message. In fact, while this summit was going on, there were protesters at Carnegie Mellon University, where the summit was being held, protesting against what? I mean, basically, they can talk about climate change, they can talk about all the things they hate about Trump, but at the end of the day, voters see the binary choice between someone who is for their prosperity and their state doing well with energy investments, and somebody, you know, a group of people who may be more fringy but are becoming increasingly the mainstream in the Democratic Party, saying we are against growth. We do not want that kind of prosperity in our state.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of today plays out. While I have you both, I want to get to the race in Arizona today. We've got a special primary to replace Congressman Raul Grijalva, who died in March. And we've got Deja Fox, a Gen Z political influencer who has made waves there. She calls herself the change candidate and the only one to break from the status quo. Kurt, going to hand that off to you. What are candidates like Fox and Zohran Mamdani here in New York handling it all? A moment for a movement for Democrats.
Well, see, interestingly, there's actually kind of a split here in the Democratic Party because AOC and Bernie Sanders backed somebody else and David Hogg's group back the aforementioned mentioned candidate there. So, I mean, it's kind of whoever wins that one. I think that there's plenty for both sides of the equation to say, hey, this is the change candidate. I don't really know a lot of folks backed by AOC and Bernie who are, quote, establishment. So if that person wins, there's a case to be made for change. I think more often than not in these primaries, especially an off-year primary and off time, it is about the base. It is about who can get the diehards to turn out to vote, because those are the ones who care about a primary held in the middle of summer in an off year. So ultimately, it's about organization, it's about grassroots, it's about messaging to those people more than it is to your general election audience.
Denise, I'll give you the last word on this one.
Yeah. I fully agree with Kurt. I mean, we're old campaign hacks. You know, we even both lived in San Diego at the same time, sometimes on the same of the aisle, sometimes on different, but he's 100% right. And you know what? This woman, first of all, I just love it when young women get involved in politics. So go her. I fully disagree with everything she stands for, but I so support her getting involved. The problem is she's running against a Nepo baby, basically, right? Grijalva's daughter, who is Latina in a 60% Latino population district. Plus, she has name ID, and she looks young at 50. I'm going to claim it because I'm 48. She looks young compared to the average member of Congress. So she's got these things going for her. I think she's going to take this hands down. She's going to have all the DC money, and this is not even a race.
I don't know, Denise, you have the glow of a 20-something newlywed is all I'll say.
Oh, it's that newlywed. It's the newlywed glow, right, Denise?
That's right. That's right. And I'm also glowing because I get to be on with Kurt, who's my absolute favorite.
Oh, boy. All right. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I like that you guys like each other. Kurt, Denise, thank you very much for being here today. As always, we'll see you soon.